Let me tell you a story. My story. A couple of weeks ago, I had a bit of a loss streak. Well, that's a bit of an understatement, really. 12 losses in a row. It was a horrible experience, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Well, there's a few people, but still. I went from Grandmaster to Mid-Diamond. I was Grandmaster in Season 2, and I didn't feel like this loss streak was justified, nor did I feel like I played a massive part in those losses. But everyone thinks like that, so maybe that's not true. Fortunately, I'm back in Grandmaster now, and there was one hero in particular that helped kickstart the streak back home. Zarya, a personal favourite of mine, and one of the strongest heroes in Overwatch. Zarya is a bit different this season though. So let's look at some tips. Picking Zarya. Right now, in the 3-tank meta, Zarya doesn't always manage to find her way in. Because D.Va is such a strong pick, and Reinhardt is often mandatory, you're sort of left with a toss-up between Zarya and Roadhog. From my experience, I see more people opting to choose Roadhog. It's probably because he relies less on his teammates' support, and he's also there to create entries, something Zarya doesn't really excel at. Zarya can also be a tough pick if for some reason you're not running a 3-tank composition. If you're running just 2 tanks, with a D.Va, you don't want to be picking Zarya. She'll have no easy way to gain charge with D.Va unless you coordinate, and your team won't have enough damage absorption to take you through. In this case, I would 100% go with Reinhardt most of the time. In situations where you do have a Rein, Zarya can be a great pick, as he's a perfect target for your bubble. Well, what about the enemy team compositions? Well, ladies and gentlemen, with the introduction of the rather odd Symmetra and Torbjorn hold on so many maps, Zarya can be an excellent choice. Things like Symmetra turrets and Torbjorn turrets don't care that you or your teammate have your bubble. They'll damage you anyway, making for a ridiculously easy charge and giving you the ability to melt people. I would always play Zarya in this situation. So let's move on to playing Zarya. She's a tank, so your positioning is very important. You're not looking to be taking the brunt of the team's damage if you have a Reinhardt, but you need to assist him in putting your team's presence out there and moving you forward. Try and stay with him, bobbing in and out of his shield as you try to build charge and deal enough damage to the enemy team to keep them on edge. Once you are charged, don't be afraid to start playing more aggressively, and really put some damage down. Remember though, you have a bubble that can save teammates from fatal damage, as well as remove Ana's grenade debuff, so you need to be aware of what your team's doing as often as possible. What about building charge? As I said earlier, sometimes it can be as easy as walking past a Symmetra turret trap, but in a standard situation, you'll have to play it smart. It's much easier to gain charge from shielding your teammates than it is from your own shield, but obviously you need to take advantage of both. Try and look out for situations where your teammates are being focused. That's the perfect time to put your shield on them. But obviously there are situations where your teammates are being charged by a Reinhardt, for example, or frozen by Mei, which will be the prime examples of when you would put your shield on them. But they're not really necessary to build charge. For yourself, you're going to have to time it right. If you expose yourself and start trying to cut people down, they'll have no choice but to start trying to kill you. At that point, pop your shield and get some of that sweet, sweet charge. With the changes to the way Zarya's bubble works, you can't rely on just absorbing Reinhardt's fire strikes to build charge, as it'll only net you 20 charge now. You have to be more daring, but make sure the situation is acceptable and your Ana is aware of what's going on. The last thing you'll want is to be killed while trying to build that charge, because you'll have to start again. Now that you're nice and charged up, you'll have to find some effective ways of damaging people. You might think that using your right click to get some damage in seems like trash damage and will only charge their support ults. That might be true in some cases, but on high charge, a well-placed right click will do a lot of damage to squishy heroes. In addition to that, you're also looking to build your ult as quick as possible, ready to shut down the next team fight. When it comes to close quarters, unless there's a bunch of very tightly grouped squishy heroes, you should be using your left click. Position it on them and try your best to track as they attempt to escape your massive damage. With your own bubble available to you, no hero is really a match. You'll melt them fast, but be careful because if they're still being supported by their healers, you might struggle to melt them quick enough, and an Ana grenade might really ruin your plans. If they're in range, try and focus the supports first. Finally, your ultimate. Everyone will be hoping for you to bring that team fight together and set them up for victory. It's really part and parcel with playing Zarya. You lost it to a D.Va Matrix? Too bad. You missed their team entirely? Too bad. It's okay to mess it up a few times, if you can build it quick enough. But if you do it repeatedly, then you could be throwing away the game completely. You don't need to do anything too fancy. If you can catch just 2 key targets, such as both their supports, it's a reasonable ult. Anything above 3 is ideal, but please keep in mind the situation. If they have a Mercy, for example, make sure she is dealt with before you ult, or make sure she's actually caught in that ult. If they have a Zenyatta, guess what? Make sure he's dealt with before you ult. You want to maximise the destruction caused by your ult, not just maximise the amount of people you catch. To do this, you also need to consider your teammates. Do any of their ults combo with yours? Do you have a Genji with his ult, for example? A Roadhog who's ready to go whole hog? Maybe a Tracer with a pulse bomb? If you don't have anything to combo with, make sure you're charged up and your team are with you, ready to focus them. Make sure that the situation really does require your ult, as you don't want to be that one guy going in alone and complaining that you caught the ball in your graviton. It's unnecessary. You have no right to complain about no one taking advantage of it if you didn't tell them what you're about to do, or they're not nearby for it. As Zarya, depending on how many people are in the ult, use your right click to deal massive AoE damage. If there's only a couple of them, it might be quicker to left click and melt them individually. Zarya's ult generally works best with momentum. Catch them off guard so that they don't take the opportunity to ult before you. Try and be casual about it, as a Zarya running towards you like a crazy person is a good indicator that they're trying to avoid D.Va and set up for Graviton. Hopefully these tips will be helpful for you playing Zarya successfully. Good luck, and remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and would like to see more guides.